developer is not a tester.
A developer
testing is a career on its own. Usability testing is sometimes also not the same as on them. Make sure you are checking if it's going to end up in core banking to do transaction between two accounts. Check those two accounts. And the transaction
can go wrong immediately after you deploy a fintech solution that you need to be aware of something inside. How do we avoid being Father Christmas? It's only somewhere you post, into the various GLs. But apparently it has all these nice modules around it, especially Finacle. So why do banks struggle with innovation, right? Why is innovation right now in the forte of fintechs? And to ask that, my next question is, so you have this system that you think works, right? And then you want to test it. I've had numerous debates about this subject, and I would really like you to address it. What should you be testing? What are the best practices for testing financial software? I've seen people that said, I'm a developer, and how we test is that we do peer testing. So the group of developers will test it, and even if I miss something, they're the ones that would know, and that's okay. We're going to put it into production. We're going to deploy. What are the best practices for testing financial software?
Testing is it's a big field on its own. I used to have a boss that was a tester, and when you discuss things like this before people like that, he will let you know that a developer is not a tester. A developer is not a tester.
A developer
can, yes, he can test his code, and it's like giving your script to the student to mark himself. He will give himself 100% anyway. So, and the danger of a developer saying we have done the test is that he can overlook small things. They can easily say, no, that one is not a problem, because they are looking at the level of their understanding. Sometimes what you get out of a developer testing a solution is that some functionalities become so complicated for users, because the developer is seeing it from the level of experience he has. So it's not just to use Control K and then this thing is done, and then you just say, what is Control K? So a developer should not act in the place of a tester. Yes, you may have a small team, you may want to use your developers, but as time goes on. But in looking at tests, a developer can focus on the unit test, making sure that the code works and testing some scenarios as the code has dictated it. But functional tests, you must have people that are focused on that. Testing is a career on its own. It's got people that are in that career line. Even, in fact, usability testing is sometimes also not the same as functionality testing. Some people are experts in looking at how easy people can use this platform, and they will tell you that this color combination is not the best because of certain people that have color blindness and things, or the position where so there are different kinds of tests that you want to enlist. But importantly, security or vulnerability tests is very important in a payment app. You can do away with all these usability things. You can come back to it and get away with it. But you can't get away with a functionality test and with a security as well as vulnerability test. Performance test, it will come back to haunt you. Your app may be flying when you are still running 100 people, 1,000 people. The day you will hit the breaking limit, you will be surprised. You will be looking for what went wrong, and you finally found out that you've not done the proper load or performance testing. Now, acceptance testing is different from functional testing. And I've seen this play out in some places where somebody in technology just tests everything and say, we are ready to go live. And by the time the real users are testing it, they are picking holes in it. So if you want to do acceptance testing, let it be that the real type of people that will use it in live scenario are the ones testing and saying, this works, or no, this is crap. So because what you have done as a great job as a developer might be scrapped by just a 15-year-old guy and say, what is this? I will never use this app. And we have all seen that on Google Meeting. So, but when you are testing, make sure you are looking out for boundaries, negative tests, error messages. They are very important because some of those things can give you out. You can even create a backdoor for hackers to your system. You are testing for random near live data. Don't just test, sometimes somebody just give you a payload. You are just reusing. You don't even know whether the developer had coded some values. And when you put a different random value, then things break. And I've seen solutions where when they put decimal places, it doesn't work. But when
Wow.
you don't put test map, it works. And people have tested. So random things that are near life, you have to just test it. It's not enough to say 1,000 is 1,000. What if is 1,000.25? So you need to be able to also test the last mile, the systems that are the actual last mile, validate the entries on them. Make sure you are checking if it's going to end up in core banking to do transaction between two accounts. Check those two accounts. Are the transactions there? Don't just be getting success from Postman and you say everything is fine. And you go live and they say, okay, we have sold recharge to this man. We didn't see the money anywhere. So it's important that you check the last mile.
Arrows fired at Postman. Postman, sorry. Yeah, what you're saying is interesting. I like that you gave, a real life scenario. I think I have a few under my belt. There's the time we were testing for, we were not testing. We finished testing and the bank wanted it live back in the days. They wanted the system live before Salah. That was the time, the Salah break. That was the time we learned the hard lesson not to deploy before a long holiday, like avoid it at all means, by all means. So we tested, but we deployed the system and the bank was supposed to test. We did our own normal test as the payment engineers from the company that was deploying that, right? And we tested that your PIN will be working. And so let's say my PIN was 999. If you put 999, it works. But we didn't test, let's put a wrong PIN, or let's even put alphanumeric on the EPP of the ATM and see what will happen. And this really nice risk audit guy or whatever it is, stroll to the ATM. I don't know, because that's not normal human being behavior, right? To be strolling around the ATM, the marina, belonging to your bank, and start pinning things. And that's what this guy did. And he discovered that if you test 8888 and ask for 10K, it will bring it out. If you put 1001 and ask for 20K, it will bring it out. It will be debiting correctly from your account, but the PIN was just open. It was not validating, and all hell broke loose. We later found out what happened. Somebody removed some setting that was supposed to be detecting that. That's the kind of things that can happen when you don't test. That's interesting. Very valid points you made, about how testing is a career. I mean, from everything you've said about functional tests, unit tests, vulnerability tests, we can see how the developers can be saddled with all that, right? It needs to be somebody else's job. There's something that happens in Nigeria. Not only in Nigeria, happens everywhere else, but at least we were hit with some news last year when some very big company that got a specific license went live. Everybody was shouting on Twitter, shouting on LinkedIn and everything. Yay, they're going to kill everybody, disruption, disruption. A few days after, they were served breakfast in the fintech way. Somebody cooked serious breakfast for them in the fintech way, and it resulted in a court order that sued almost all the banks in Nigeria. What can go wrong immediately after you deploy a fintech solution that you need to be aware of?
Well, when you talk about what can go wrong in the banking circle, we usually joke about one thing, that you don't want to be a Father Christmas. And when you talk about being a Father Christmas, you are giving value when you have not debited anybody. And it has happened severally in the industry. I mean, people are just cleaned out. By the time you check settlement report, you are asking yourself, where does this 1 billion come from? We didn't have this amount in our account. That is one of the worst nightmares you can have in deploying a solution. We've seen cases of single debit, multiple credits.
Wow.
One debit happened and the recipient just get value back 5 times. And you're like, what's happening? Maybe somebody has even just used a store and forward system and the thing is not updating the status. He just picks it again, keeps firing to the other side. I mean, people who have been in the industry long knows this kind of things have happened. I mean, you can have situations where you have created a system where somebody is even enriching a system himself within the system, where, I mean, as system is crediting 10 people, 1 naira is going to this, and they are all kind of values that you can't easily suspect. Things like that have happened in several industries, several countries, that people are taking advantage of new systems. And system compromise is one of those things that can happen. If you don't do vulnerability testing very well, you can go live one day. And I mean, there are times we've seen a lot of attacks in mobile banking. Every customer is just shouting, I'm not the one doing the transaction. I'm not, and you are wondering, what's the problem? I mean, These are not news in the industry over time that we have seen around. So your system can be compromised. Before you know it, you are hurriedly shutting down the system. One of the things that can go wrong is the stability problem of the system itself. You may think, yes, we have done everything right, and the moment traffic comes into the system, it shuts down itself because it can't handle the traffic, because you didn't do certain performance. So a lot of things can go wrong in a payment application, but for whatever is going wrong, make sure at least you are not doing for that Christmas. At least you can match.
Let's not avoid the question. Let's jump inside. How do we avoid being Father Christmas?
To avoid it takes a lot to avoid that. And one of the things, you see, in those days, I remember one of the banks I worked. If a vendor brings an application, and I think somebody is here who can attest to that. A vendor brings an application to the bank for us to deploy. We will sit you down. We will go through the code line by line and ask you questions. Now, what is this one doing here? Why did you put this statement here? Because we want to know.
You will go code.
Yes.
Wow.
To understand what are you trying to achieve here. Because you might not be doing anything wrong to hurt us financially, but you might be creating a system that will be expensive performance-wise. That at the end of the day, the core banking will just, every table will just be locked. When you talk about issues, you just hear, they say the core bank, there are locks on the DB because of somebody running an expensive query. So that kind of vigilance is very important. Having a team that can play like the third eye on your implementation. This is why banks would have like security teams, like control teams. Unfortunately, I mean, these days, you may not have the same level of experience from those kind of teams as compared to the people implementing the system. And that's one of the challenges we may have. A control officer should be able to look at your code and tell you that, look, this is not acceptable, this logic, it will fail at some point. It will be able to do that. But today, they just run some one or two tools. If you run a static analytic tool, it's just going to tell you as much as some few things. You might look at the OWASP rule and some other syntax and tell you everything looks good. You may not be able to take away the need for certain people to play an oversight role on some of these implementations to be sure that nothing will go wrong. And that's where, I mean, having the right teams in place helps you from the beginning.